Okay, I've made some of the changes that I wanted to do, and I'd like to show you what I did and explain a little bit about how I also made those changes. I went ahead and added a crack and split in one of the teeth. I also enhanced a few of the cracks of the teeth, added a number of cracks throughout the skull, as well as a few of the small dimples that I used the clay tubes brush with we did earlier in one of our lessons, and just a number of just little cracks here and there to add some interest. So overall, that helps to polish the skull and take it to the next level. In fact, I think I'm going to continue the crack within the eye socket, so I'll just show you how that was done. I used the Orb Cracks brush for that, and I'm simply going to gently create a crack and just see how my intensity setting is, which my brush is a little too big. So I'll do that one more time. And that's basically what I wanted to add. I'm going to just hit that very gently with the smooth brush to soften it a little bit. I could increase the division levels of the skull, but I prefer not to at this time. So by softening up the crack sometimes helps to reduce some of this stepping that happens. Let's bring up my brush size. Also, having a cavity matte cap turned on also can over enhance the visual look. What's most important is how it looks from a general distance, and make sure that it reads properly. You don't have to be overly concerned with the stepping, because that can really beef up the size of your model and cause ZBrush to slow down. You want to make sure you're always working without a lag. A lot of this will be cleaned up later on in the final stages in Photoshop, so I'm not too worried about it. Okay, great. So I have the skull finished. Of course, we made the changes earlier in adjusting the skull, also the size of the book cover and the pages. And one of the last areas that I wanted to tackle was the noise pattern that I have on the ring. As I mentioned, it's a technique and it looks really good. It just doesn't really match this particular style as well as I would have liked it to. So I can actually turn it off, because when we created it earlier, we didn't actually apply it to the mesh. We just kept it on its layer. So I'm just going to turn the noise off completely. And I'll do the same thing for the 4 arrows. But for now, I just want to focus on the ring and show you how I go about making changes. So there's a number of different brushes you can use. One of them is called the mallet brush. And the mallet brush, or even the mallet fast, which sometimes works a little bit better, they work really well in kind of carving into your object. They're very similar, in fact, to the clay tubes, just different modifications to the strengths and the different alpha maps and so forth. What I'm going to do is use the mallet fast, create a large brush, but I want to make sure my intensity setting's really low, because all I'm trying to do right now is just hit the metal and just dent it, bang it up a little bit. I'll then go over that with the smooth. And you can see that very quickly adds some banged up metal, where before it's just a little too clean. So I'm just going to hit that over a couple of areas. It works really well, in fact, when you go over any type of peak or edge. And I'm more concerned with the exterior than I am with the interior, because the interior has the skull, so that's not really causing any issues for me. So that looks good. Again, I'll just hit that with the smooth, just to soften it up just a little bit. And I think finally the slices we put in earlier look good. They're just a little bit on the small scale compared to what we need for the rest of the scale of the overall image. So I'm going to rebuild those in the same areas that they are. We need the drag rectangle turned on. So again, just hitting those areas and kind of enhancing them more than they were previously. Looks good. So you can see this has a little bit nicer of a feel. I can even go into the move brush and just kind of tweak it. One little trick that I do sometimes, just to break things up and make them not so perfect, is I won't just move an object, but I'll literally keep it in place, but just wiggle it. So you just take something that is perfectly straight and you don't want it to be, and you just wiggle it a little bit, and that helps to break up the perfectness of it, the reality of it, and it gives it a bit more of a stylized, almost fantasy flavor. And it's very easy to do, but it's actually a cool technique. It works really well, because what sets off this style is the waviness, that nothing is perfectly straight and clean. So I'll go ahead and I'll do the rest of that to the 4 points on the compass so that they kind of match with this style, and that'll be all complete. But what I like to do is, while I'm demonstrating this, let's jump onto the cover and take a look at some stitches options and see what we can do to enhance the look of the cover.